Hello, everyone. Good afternoon, merry time zone, and welcome to my stream. I'm Bloodthread Shears, Shears for short, and today is a new episode of Between the Lines with special guest Petti. And today we're going to be talking about some fanfiction tropes, so I'm not going to waste any time, so I'm going to switch over to the new overlay for the literature and introduce you to our guest. Okay. So, there we go. Good to go. So, everyone, please feel free to welcome my guest, Petti. Petti, would you be so kind to tell the lovely folks uh, who's on voice with me? All right. So, for the purposes of tech issues, there will be no thing with thing, brain. There will be. Oh, son of a biscuit. I swear I'm good at this. Professional streamer, everyone. For the sake of this, you're only going to hear our voices, but we do have captions up uh, and going. And while I figure out how to do, let me see. Do. How in the hell did I do this last time? Um, hold on. There had to be a way to like do this. But anyways, today's topic is fanfiction and the tropes that we like and the things that we like to rant about. So, while I do all of the technical stuff, um, Petti, would you be willing to share your experience with fanfic? Oh God. Oh yeah, I am pretty much the same. I have been formed in the uh fires of fanfic.net, media minor, AFF.net. Yeah. Oh, you know, this is good. The fun part is basically just realizing, oh, I can't find the good stuff on fanfic.net. Media Minor is here, and without revealing my age, it was not blocked by certain filters. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, yes. And good news, I fixed the thing. I figured it out. Huzzah! So, oh yeah, The Great Purge. Yeah. Yes. Like, I remember the minor purges dealing with Anne Rice and her abysmal treatment of the fandom, which I'm going to step up on my soapbox and say my condolences go to the family for her death, but I will never forgive how she treated fans by sending her fandom after people who were critical of her. Fuck that. Very. And I'll probably get into this a little bit more about how uh, writers and fanfic and like the whole interconnectivity has come very far. Like fanfic used to be like the one dirty little secret everybody couldn't like tell anyone. Oh yes. Oh, exactly. And it's just like, "Oh, honey, where'd you learn that?" Internet. But I have parental blocks on there. Yeah, and I feel like that's how it has been for a very long time with fan fiction, where it was a thing you didn't talk about, but you knew what was happening. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. I distinctly remember Angel Fire and GeoCities. And if you wanted the really good stuff that came with scanlations of manga, you had to join a live journal community and they had to do like vigorous checks on you. Mm-hmm. Especially for like BL kind of stuff. Cause my first foray into fanfiction was basically Sailor Moon, going into forums and finding some stuff through Gaia Online. And then, oh yes, I still technically have my account. It is one, two, three usernames. Uh, detached from my current handle. Um, but I distinctly remember like trying to look for Rurouni Kenshin at the time. Um, yeah, like I was a big Misao Aoshi shipper. Um, Made me realize, oh, I really like angst. Um, oh, definitely. And then like once I started reading BL manga, I think like my first one, reading my first ever one in print was Golden Cane. It is a ride. Uh yeah. And then I heard through the forums on Gaia Online, Fake by Sanami Mato, the classic. Yes. Or just wait for somebody else to take off the plastic so you can read it. I grew up in a very, I won't say super strict household, but I will say that my family freaked the hell out. Um, like a family member had caught me reading like BL fanfic, and she was like, "What the fuck is this?" And I'm like, "Uh, it's a soap opera," which is basically the best description of like fanfic. Fanfic can be either the there, I fixed it. Looking at you, Game of Thrones. Um, oh no, I was basically one of those people who sat like as if I was like tailgating at the fandom concert of that and seeing people lose their shit over the final season. And I'm just like, oh, so this is how normal for folks feel of what happens when the show diverts from the book canon. Yeah. So like I had seen like yeah, and I had seen a surge in like Jamie and what's her face, the one who yeah, like a surge in fanfic on that because people were pissed. Mm-hmm. And then like I'd seen like a gift set of like when Brienne and Jamie finally get together and it's just like tall woman, short man. I'm just like, oh, oh, oh my. So I'm just like, okay, I can see where people are coming from with that. But like fanfic, oh, go ahead. So like fanfiction is like that reaction of like it's either a love letter, an exploration of certain tropes, certain universes, maybe a fan fiction done in a homebrew setting, or very shamelessly using another setting to put their characters in a season. So basically, like I won't name names to respect the privacy of the fanfic writers, but there was a fanfic by a Breath of the Wild fanfic, and they set it in the world like along the plot line of The Shape of Water, where Link Sidon pairing. Yeah. So Sidon is basically big shark guy who's a prince. And people were thirsty for him and shipped the dynamic of tall, small. Yes. I mean, you see tall and small person who are hot. Hi, yes, please. Um, but basically they took like the plot of yeah, The Shape of Water and used the characters from Breath of the Wild. I've also seen Oh, go ahead. Yeah. I've also seen Dragon Age fanfic take like the basic plot of Outlander and use the time travel mechanic. Oh boy. So fan fiction is basically like the proving grounds, like a literary proving ground. And the art of itself, I think, is older than what people give it credit for. Because if you look at certain things like classic literature, like Paradise Lost, that's basically fan fiction with uh Satan as the writer's OC to make him hot. Exactly. And if you also look at if you ever watch OSP, they did like a whole thing of the Divine Comedy. And Red had best described the Divine Comedy as Dante's self-insert revenge fic. Correct on all accounts. Yeah. Oh, definitely. Yeah. hmm Oh, yeah. And the fact, like, if you go through oral tradition, yes, bards and oral storytellers would make sure that they have the entirety of the story intact. They can also put in their own spin. The only reason why we have the Odyssey and the Iliad is because those were codified. So it's kind of like forget the canon. There is no canon. There's only a amalgamation of so many things that we don't know, and that is terrifying. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, like, we see, like, the egregious examples of, like, E.L. James and Kira Takenouchi, who I will get into in a little bit because, oh boy, that author is basically your proving grounds for fanfic and erratic writing. Yes. Oh boy. Like when people think of like literature, they often think it's like stuffy, it's boring. Well, that's basically what happens when you have teachers and a school system that doesn't want to teach you. They just want you to learn to take tests. But when you have a teacher who can show you like, oh no, 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 this is a lot more fucked up than you think, or this is a lot more gay than you expect. Yeah. Yeah. Hmm. Yeah. So, and that's what gives fan fiction such a wonderful outlet for folks, because if we're talking about fan fiction in a modern context, we cannot talk about fan fiction without mentioning Star Trek, the original series, and Spirk. Because shippers are basically what kept that show alive, and the zine culture, and the fact that people shipped Kirk and Spock quite a bit. And I'd seen like some of the old zines, and a lot of the artwork that came from it is very beautiful. And also seeing like how people were like, oh, I'm seeing chemistry here. What if I expand upon that? Or what if I did like a, as I like to joke, 400k multi epic slow burn fic of them falling in love? Oh god. Oh yeah. Yeah. Like if I don't start at the begin, like when they're as they're writing it, I tend to feel a bit lost. Like there's a fanfic author who wrote a kind of alternate timeline, or like a story, like fairy tale inspired Dragon Age fanfic. And not only did they write it once, they wrote it twice from the perspective of the love interest. So it was just like, people who do that, you are wild. I respect you. And it is torture to wait for the next update. Yeah. Oh yeah, and God bless the bookmarking system for AO3. Be- because holy crap. And like AO3, for folks who are younger than us, you do not understand how wild fanfiction sites were. Yeah. Yeah. Hmm. Yes. And the fact that, again, going back to like fanfiction.net, like the GeoCities stuff, like the fan shrines, basically. If those went down, or if the hosting domains closed, that was it. You could not find it unless, yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, and it was just like, ridiculous with how, like, Lexi, go lie down. It was ridiculous with how much effort we as fans had to put in just to have our own little niche space. And if you were brave and writing for a fandom that has a creator who actively goes after fan fiction at that time, you were risking a lot. And for those who don't know, there used to be disclaimers in fanfic at the beginning and at the end of the chapters, basically saying, please don't sue me, I'm broke, this belongs to this, go support them. Yes. Oh, yes. And which brings me to Anne Rice and the Vampire Chronicles. Yeah, we gotta talk about this because this is, as much as I hate to talk about this, it's such a vital part of the history of fanfic. Like, if you were to go onto Tumblr, there are threads of folks curating the history of fanfic. It is a wild ride. And like the youngins, God, I feel old saying that. The youngins in the fandom are like, wait, that really happened? I'm like, oh, honey. Oh, honey. And just like go like with like a bottle, just like drink the wine right from the bottle and be like, okay, we're gonna talk. Gather round, kiddies, and hear the tale of how Anne Rice fucked over her fandom multiple times. Yeah. So for those who don't know, Anne Rice was the writer for the Vampire Chronicles and I think a few other series. I know, Doggo. Anne Rice was not fun. One of her most famous books was Interview with the Vampire. So, hold on one second. Either go on your pillow or get out of the room, Lex. Sorry about that. Doggo was complaining. So Interview with the Vampire is one of her best known books. And by all counts, I read it. I read it from front to back in 3 days. And at that time, I had never finished a book so fast. So once you start reading the books, you get really into the world and how intricate everything is and how it influenced a lot of goth culture and how vampires are perceived today. And yes, by all accounts, it is highly influential. That being said, well, I distinctly remember her being very open about her hatred of fanfiction. She did not like it when people wrote fanfic or played in her sandbox. If she knew that people were writing fanfic, her lawyers were, and still are, because the estate is still active, highly litigious. And she used to send her fans, after people to harass them. She sent, like, cease and desist letters to fanfiction.net. So those were the first purges. And then when she, quote, found God, or found Jesus, kind of got worse. It was a ride. So if you see fanfiction from the Vampire Chronicles on AO3, read it as quickly as you could. No. And her and originally Neil Gaiman was against fan fiction. His opinion has warmed up over time, but he does say for legal reasons he will not read them, which honestly, that's fine. And authors have gotten into that kind of trouble. So, to protect themselves and to protect their fans, depending on the author, they can be like, yeah, I love fan fiction. For legal reasons, I can't read your stuff about my stuff. But please, go ahead. Exactly. Like, I know Sherilyn Kenyon is a big proponent of that. She's highly flattered about that. Neil Gaiman is totally fine with it nowadays. Um, like, I think the other notable folks who are against, like, strictly against fan fiction are notable trash bags. Um, George R.R. Martin has basically said, do not tell me, or I will be legally obligated to sue you. No, he's not. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So yeah, and also the most notable trash bag turf, J.K. Rowling. She's why we had those purges on FF.net. Yeah. And yeah. But again, we hear in the House of Sheer say trans rights, fuck turfs, and fuck J.K. Rowling. It amuses me to no end that her set of first edition books did not sell at Christie's. So basically, like, she got pissed off over the fact, like, fans were writing Draco Harry smut. Oh, yes. And, like, I can understand a author being like, hey, you're free to write fan fiction. Just all I ask is that you don't do this. Like, don't be a shitbag about it. That to me, yeah, like, that to me is, like, reasonable. What was it you were going to say? Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. And to go from being utterly terrified of somebody finding out you write fan fiction to now having the entirety of AO3 being a Hugo Award winning archive. I cannot tell you how happy that made me. Like, beating out George R. R. Martin and Lindsay Ellis and wondering if I could put Hugo Award winning author on my resume. I know I wasn't the only one. And the fact that AO3 came at a time where fandom was changing. We had, like, Marvel gaining steam with their cinematic universe. You had anime be out for almost 20 years now at that time, and being an established money-making giant. And the fact that the archive is a nonprofit. And I will repeat this again for those who try to promote their Ko-fi or Patreon on their fanfic. It is a nonprofit. You're breaking TOS. Yes. And the fact that fans, with the long memories that we have, either grew up to be lawyers, grew up to understand the legal system, and and are willing to fight back rather than hide in shame. That did not come overnight. And the fact that we have that now is a gift. Granted, there are certain fandoms that I will not touch with a 50-foot pole. I do not fuck with a mouse. Yeah. Oh, yeah. So the fact that we have that, and the fact that there were projects to import entire archives of fanfiction onto AO3. For example, the entire archive of Labyrinth fanfiction. That is monumental. Oh, yes. And I think my favorite is Prized Possession by the fanfic author Jester. I highly recommend it. It is good. Some things haven't aged as well. Not in terms of... but it's like, it was at the time. So, like, you have, like, certain things that are still appealing even after all these years. And if you find that fanfic author and they're like, oh yeah, I found this on a floppy disk, I decided to just put it up here, have at it. Oh, god damn it. Listen here, you little whippersnapper. Yeah. Oh, this'll hurt. This'll do some extra damage. I had mentioned at one point I wanted to get a laptop with a CD drive because, long story short, I belly dance. And CDs are kind of required for when you perform, because you never know when a file's going to corrupt. They did not. Yep. Yeah. Oh, son of a bitch. Hold on a second. I think... Did I... Oh, fuck buckets. Let's try now. Goddamn. There we go! Son of a bitch, OBS.
Did it crash?
No, when I turned my headset on, it just sent it to default.
So has it not been using like the right mic or something? Because you sound the same.
No, it wasn't the input, it was the output. I'm just like, motherfucker,
okay.
Why isn't that... At least we have the captions. At least we have captions.
Yes, we do.
Oh, thank God. Professional streamers.
Tets.
But yeah, in regards to like the fact that we constantly go back to the same fanfic over certain like actual stuff that comes out of media.
Yep.
question why we do that because of the fact that, say, for example, you go to a movie, you see a sex scene. If you are not a cis white male, it's not gonna be a fun time. Especially since, like, you have the sex scene, but it's geared towards white cis hetero male.
Sure.
You go to a fanfic, and oftentimes you're gonna see more of like what's going on in the heads of the characters. Is the sex scene gonna be good? Depending on what you're reading, you can either get super sensual or a throbbing member.
I listen, and you are correct, but also most importantly, anybody who does read fan fiction, or even if you don't, never, ever, if you are going in the back door, do it unlubed. Don't do it. I don't care
Oh
what the
my
fanfic
God.
said. Use lube. Prep. It is not hot. It is just going to be pain and probably the hospital. Use lube. Okay,
Use
back to what you were
proper
saying.
lube and not like olive oil or spit or whatever
Oh.
Vaseline bullshit. Oh God. Do your research. Do your research.
I mean, there are times I'm just like, oh, I'd beg. It's just kind of like if they, that I was just like with some of the horror things I've seen. It's just kind of like Vaseline's mouth. Just like, you know what? I'll let that one go. That's something.
I just like, or like the whole thing of when you have young writers, like in the days of ff.net, Media Miner, or Fanworks, like, which is like an obscure one. Like the whole idea that a per uterus haver or a vagina haver,
Mhm.
their hymen is meant to be broken. If you're
That's
a
just
young writer, you kind of get a pass because you don't know better.
that. I mean, that the whole Hyman thing is just getting into the like state-based the lack of education around sex in general. Like I can't even
Yeah.
blame fan fiction for that one. I'm like, that's a whole other topic, in my
Yeah.
opinion.
And we're going to leave that in a box in the corner and never talk about that.
Yeah.
But on the opposite end, we have like scenes of seduction where in the Labyrinth fanfic that I had mentioned, we have the sexual tension building over a couple of chapters, and then it comes to a head where Sarah asks Jareth to help her get out of her corset for plot reasons. Well, no, there's an actual like plot reason. Like she's like supposed to disguise herself.
I believe it.
Yeah. So like she's like having trouble like getting out of the corset, and so she's like, "Look, can you just help me with this? The laces aren't going." And speaking as somebody who wears a corset on the regular, that does happen sometimes. So like you see like at first like you read that like Jareth is doing it methodically, and then he's like the gloves are getting in the way, and then he realizes he can touch Sarah's back, and the sexual tension is like so charged. And then like you have the makeout, and then you have all of the wonderful stuff happening. Yes, give that to me. Put that in my body. Yes.
I guess that's what we do. Yes. The tension, the seduction, make sure these people, actually want each other.
Where like you have unresolved sexual tension or UST. That is one of my favorite tropes, where it's just like the mutual pining, unresolved sexual tension, and slow burn. It is the holy trinity.
I'm a pretty big fan of, it's like, of and maybe this is just the current streak I'm on that it kind of goes in those. It's just kind of like okay, like characters are just like okay, repeatedly the whole romantic thing has not worked. I'm gonna give up on that for a bit. No, I'll come back to it later. It's just like I just want. It's just like let's just both agree, that this is what we want. It's just gonna be this. No other emotions, respect. We'll go for there, and then inevitably, that's the person's just like, oh, I want to be with this person now. Like it
Yes.
wasn't supposed to get emotion. That's one of my favorites too. It's just like, nope, this is all it is. It'll
Yes.
stay that way.
And the trope that has an ableist term in it, I'm just gonna say dorks in love.
Ah, sure.
Or just goofballs in love, which I think is perfectly fine.
Mhm.
Where that adding with that trope where it's just like I'm so jealous of this person being with this person. Why am I being so angry? I respect this person. It's like oh oh or like when the couple is like finally realizing that they love each other and it's like shit, fuck.
It's like, oh, but I don't know if they like me. I for real like them, but it wasn't supposed to be that way. And then, oh no!
Yeah, meanwhile like readers like us are just like gimme, where's the
Just
popcorn?
also just sitting there, just like, just talk to him.
Yes. And it's just like kiss.
Ah, good times.
Oh yeah, especially at like 2 in the morning when you have no sleep happening and you're just like, oh, I'll just read this for a little bit. 20 chapters in.
I it's that I'm so bad about that because I do like to typically read something to go to sleep. Well, I flip between read something or listen to something as I go to sleep, and everybody will be like, okay, I'll just read a little bit of this, and then eventually I'll peter off, and then as you said, just 2 a.m. It's like I gotta wake up in 3 hours.
Yeah. That was
Oh, why did I
me.
do this?
Yeah. That was me reading Good Omens fanfic. And
Mm.
holy shit. Like, oh, I'm like, oh, Good Omens fanfic, Aziraphale and Crowley. Okay, cool. 2 in the morning. I'm like, I should get some sleep. Or
Or
it's like, oh, this
just
is a
stay up the whole
multific.
time.
Oh yeah. And the whole thing of when you have a fic where it's just like the stereotypical of friends to lovers or friends to lovers to rivals to enemies kind of deal, and
Mhm.
it's like insert dynamic here, and it's just like I know certain how tropes are in of itself for the most part not harmful. It is the execution of the trope that will make or break it.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, a trope in and of itself, unless it is a very clearly problematic thing, it's just it's fine.
Oh, definitely. And the fact that if you have something like enemies to lovers or lovers to enemies to friends to lovers,
Mm-hmm.
it all depends on the execution of that trope.
It's 100%.
I've seen it done well, where character A thought character B died, but character B faked their death to protect themselves. And they're still trying to figure out their feelings, and there's a lot of sexual tension going on. And then when it comes to a head, it's just yes.
It can be real nice. It can be real nice. I know I personally I have to be in the mood for a slow burn story because it can be very satisfying once you get to it, but it's sometimes it's just I'll get impatient. It's just I only got 2 hours that I can spend reading today, and then I got other stuff to do. So I'm gonna need you to get to the point. I don't need it immediately. It's just if I need it immediately, I just watch some adult material.
Yes.
But It's just like, well, okay, but in chapter 10, they finally kiss. It's like, get me off this ride. Can I just skip to let me skip to chapter 9. Okay. It doesn't have to be chapter 10. It was like, come on.
Yeah, and like an old tag, like the PYP plot. What plot?
Uh,
Or
I
porn without
love me a
plot.
plot what plot. I do.
It's
I
like
really
there are days when you just need. There are days when you want like the 7-course meal. Other days,
like,
you
nope.
want that box of Twinkies right fucking now, and you don't have a lot of time.
The microwave is right here.
Yes.
I have a hot pocket. Let's go. Let's go.
Yeah. So we're at top of the hour, so we're gonna take a like 5-10 minute break.
Yeah, that works.
Okay. So we will be right back, and we're gonna continue to talk more about tropes that we like and tropes that we wish would die in an eternal flame. So
Oh, we'll get there.
oh yeah, we will. So stick tight. We'll be right back. Um, all right, everyone, we are back. We are nice and well refreshed. And if you're curious on who's on the mic with me, you can type in exclamation point guests. Joining me is the lovely Petti.
That's me.
And we just spent the last hour doing tech support, realizing OBS is a very flawless system,
Totally.
talking about the history of fan fiction, tropes that we love, and cringing that younger folks don't know what a floppy drive is.
It's really they're just like, oh, the save, but I can't, man. I'm glad they don't know the horrors of dial-up. Save button, now that one hurt. I understand,
Yeah.
but it's
And like folks on TikTok where they're like, here's how you can get a millennial to die a little on the inside. No, you do not know the old lore. Do not speak of the old lore to me, witch. We were there when it was written.
Those books are sealed.
Yes. And anytime somebody's like, oh, we should have a Tumblr convention. Oh, honey.
No.
No.
We don't. We don't need tickets to the ball pit.
No.
No, we don't.
No, we don't.
Goodness, it
Yeah.
so amazes me that even happened.
I remember like listening to Welcome to Night Vale and then hearing them talk as in the ad break of, oh, we're going to be at this convention. And it had been like, I was a few episodes behind, so DashCon had already happened. So knowing what was going to happen is just like, oh my God.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Oh no. Yeah. It still amazes me. Absolutely, because I was not a big Tumblr person. So as someone who was not really a big Tumblr person, even I was just like, oh no. Oh no.
Yeah. And basically, like, watching it from the sidelines was the same feeling of not being a Supernatural fan, but watching the Steelgate happen.
Yeah. Oh.
All of Tumblr, if you were not a Supernatural fan, you were basically in your lounge chair with a beer or drink of choice, watching the reactions go down.
Super
And
Hulock was never the same.
boy, oh boy. And speaking of trash fires, let's talk about some tropes that we do not like. Because there are a lot.
And I know that this is probably going to be unpopular. I say as if there's more than just two of us here, but it's like one thing I don't like, and I have never liked, because you think you brought up earlier, where it's just like, okay, we'll have the characters go through the plot of a movie. That's actually fine. I don't mind that. What I don't like is literally any, and I do mean any, crossover fanfic. I cannot stand up. I've never read one that I've liked. It's always been bad, and it's like, no, just write two different stories, please, please. It's never been good, not once, not in my experience.
I think the only example I have of a fairly decent, if humorous, crossover was between all of the, at the time, current Final Fantasy games.
That's different, because at least that's kind of within the same thing. You know, like, okay, yes, all the Final Fantasy story games are separated, except for the ones that have sequels.
Yes.
So it'll be, at least that's all Squeenix, at least. No, I'm talking more like the and I know there was also an actual comic to this one, but like X-Men and who was it at the time? Because who was it? Who was it? I feel like I repressed it and blocked it out of my memory because I'm like, no. I want to say it was like X-Men and Naruto, and I'm like, please no.
Wait, what?
I think that's what the crossover was.
Oh
Again, I've tried my best to forget any details I knew of it, and I knew it was a bad idea at the time. But it's just like I morbid curiosity, and I'm like, no, this was a bad idea. There, I think you know what there was one crossover fic, and I feel like if I read it again, I probably might have a different opinion on it. But at least when I read it, I'm like, you know what? Okay, and that was I think it was just titled Star-Crossed Lovers, like straight up.
Mm-hmm.
And it was Dragon Ball Z and Sailor Moon. But in that one, it was one of the Sailor Scouts coming to the world of Dragon Ball Z. It was that was the only crossover, so it was just her.
Okay.
And that one wasn't bad. I'm just like, you know what? That one wasn't bad. I was pretty young when I read them. I'm just like, all right. And then I think maybe that's what prompted me, just like, maybe other of these will be fine. And they weren't. They never were. Not once. So like that. So I was so having that little section on AO3, just like, do you want to exclude crossovers? Yes. Please, thank you for making this an option. I select that every time. I can't. I won't go back to the well. I can't.
AO3 is a gift. It is that one shop you go to and be like, oh, what sections do you want to go? This way. Do you want to go this way? No. Okay. And like they give you the custom "Don't bother me" shopping basket, and you just go about your merry day.
Right? Just like, I never have to go to that aisle. Thank you, AO3. Like I'm not saying those stories shouldn't exist. I'm saying I don't like them.
Mm-hmm.
To be clear.
Oh god, like, because I've read some wild fanfic. I've also have like spanning like the self-insert ones. Some of them were for humor, some of them were actually serious. Which was like the Sayuki, Yu Yu Hakusho.
Na, 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 na,
That was still a bop.
I will now have Smile Bomb forever stuck in my head. Thank you.
You're welcome. I regret nothing.
I mean, it's a great song, so it's hard for me to complain.
Yeah. So like, I remember having like a huge crush on Kurama, and seeing like a self-insert. Yeah. Oh, when you saw him as Yoku Kurama, hello.
Right? It's just like, hey, Yoko, how you doing?
And it's just like you look him, you do like the Joey Tribbiani thing. You look him up and down, and go, how you doing?
That's how I felt about very specifically long-haired future trucks. Not short hair, long-haired future trucks. It's just like, hey, what's up?
Exactly. So
hey,
like,
yeah, what's your pronouns?
It's like, what's your name? Let me buy you a drink. And just like, so seeing like self-insert fanfic at the time, because I was young. So like seeing stuff like that drew me in. Nowadays that is cringe as hell.
Yep.
Do I enjoy like OCs that are inserts for the author and the reader? Yeah, that's fine. That's totally fine.
But just like inter-character / reader. Yeah, not for me either.
Nah, I can't do it anymore. And also like the unrealistic sex scenes. Oh god. If you're going to do stuff like that, if you're doing it as like a crack fic, fine.
Sure.
Or if you're doing it as like a bad writing challenge, as a catharsis, because I've seen fanfic writers do that, like intentionally write bad fanfic for the fun of it.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Like
just like when you're like, let's say you're doing like a scene or whatever, you really ham it up. It's like, and that is the point. Like that's super cheesy. Yes, that is what I am doing, quite on purpose.
Yes, and it's like watching a So Bad It's Good movie. You need that. You need the junk food sometimes.
100%. But
and like,
go ahead.
And in terms of like romance fic, unless you're tagging it to have like certain things like gaslighting or abusive
Mm-hmm.
relationship, if it does not make sense for the plot, please don't have that.
Yeah, yeah. Don't just put it in just to put it in. Yeah, having there should be a point behind the trials and tribulations the characters are going to. Don't
Mm-hmm.
just put it in to be like, oh well, it's an angst story, so they just got to suffer a lot for a purpose,
Yes.
though.
Like,
Even if that purpose is life sucks, because that can be the point.
mm-hmm.
It can, but
Yes,
tag accordingly.
exactly. And in the
Make sure
old days,
put the good old don't eat doves.
yes. And like in the old days, a big issue I saw in BL fanfic, because and it's gotten better in recent years in BL in general, where like
Mhm.
a character will get assaulted and then the solution is more sex with the love interest, and it's just like, no,
No, that's not how trauma works
no.
at all.
So like, if you're a young writer and that's what you see, while I will say you didn't know any better, you do now.
Yeah, I know there was a Hellsing fic that honestly, aside from what you were just talking about, I liked pretty well, honestly. But there was that one thing. It's just kind of like no, and that was and that was the thing, and that was the exact reason. It's just like, oh well, I want to replace bad memory with a good memory, and with you in the same place. It's like nope.
That's not how it works.
No, no. I mean, you can do things like revisit a painful memory and try to contextualize it, but it's not just it's because the thing that gets me that particular fic is just like it wasn't even just like oh they came back like a week later and like no it was that exact same like it was like literally like we have taken care of the character who did that, let's bang now right here, like no 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 no
Yeah, and
no.
while I personally don't see that anymore, it's also because I
That
didn't
one was
seek
from a
it out.
while ago.
Yeah.
It just stuck with me.
Yeah, so like the more you read of like the in like the forges of fan fiction, the more you realize, okay, these are tropes that I like, these are tropes that I don't like. And then when you go to read like mainstream novels, and like in my case, I'm romance novel trash. I fully admit it. I have so many
Romance
audiobooks.
novels.
Oh yeah, I have so many audiobooks narrated by Nicholas Bolton, the voice for Mailhawk. So
Mm,
he's narrating trashy romance novels, which I fucking love.
everybody gotta make money.
Oh yeah. Um
Yeah, I love me a good audiobook, and because I'm very audio like I can deal with like perhaps like visuals that other people be like that's not the best, it's like it's fine, but if the audio's not on point like I can't.
mhm.
There's a series of books that I really enjoy, but I do not like the voice for the audiobooks, and that's nothing against the person narrating, it's not like they're bad, but it's
Yeah.
just this is some people can pull off sounding like multiple different characters, and
Yeah.
some people cannot. This is a person where the person's range is clearly limited, and
Mhm.
it's like you need to tag team with somebody for this to get this up to where I need it.
Oh yeah, and like as we're talking about like tropes we don't like, we see this in like regular fiction. I think like a good offense, like a good offender, like an offender I've seen is Bridgerton season 1, and when you find out what actually happens in the books, it's worse. It's
Yeah,
like this person is
yeah.
super possessive because they're in love, and like, oh honey, Mr. Darcy may have exhibited some jealousy, but he was willing to back off when Miss Bennet had said no.
Yep.
So what does that say about you? And I have the biggest shit-eating grin on my face right now.
Mm. Yes. Mm.
Because, like, we like mutual pining.
Yes.
I personally love the trope of, and there was only one bed. Or, like, oh my god, they were roommates.
Gotcha.
It's, again,
Actually,
it's,
you know what? You say it now. I'm just like, I actually do really like the roommate thing.
yeah.
100%.
I love the fact, like, in, let's say, for example, in Mass Effect, if you romance Garrus, who is Space Husband,
Yes. Yes,
um,
he is.
the fact that that romance works so well is because it's spaced out where you get to know the character first. Then in
Yeah.
2, you get the option to romance him. And then in 3, you grow with the character. You grow with Garrus, and he turns into a suave motherfucker.
Still kind of a nerd, but sure. But for
Oh, yes.
Garrus, sure.
Oh, yes. Oh, come on, that tango scene.
Okay, fine. Fine.
He's still a dork, but he's a suave dork.
He is suave for Garrus.
Yes.
Give you that. Yeah. Garrus is who I picked because fun fact, I only ever got to personally play Mass Effect 2 because that was the one that was free to me. I can't remember why. I don't know if it was like a PlayStation free PS plus freebie or something.
Mm-hmm.
But so I got to play it. I'm just like, yep, nope, Garrus it is. Like I like me a good little nerdy boy.
Mm-hmm. And so, like, if you have, like, fan fiction like that, where it's like, you get to know the characters, you get to care about them.
Yes.
A sign of good writing is getting your audience to care about the characters that you're creating.
Mm.
And then if you want to throw in some angst or mutual pining, or just your characters being completely oblivious dorks, you can do that.
100%.
Like, you can do a will they, won't they. And if you pull it off, oh boy, are people going to talk and recommend your fic?
110%.
Because,
You
like,
just, but you got to put the time in. You can't rush it.
yeah. And, like, if you're just doing, like, a one and done, totally valid. There, we mentioned before, like,
Yeah,
some days the microwave's right there.
exactly. And even in those, and even with that, even in those one and dones, there's still typically, unless it's a plot, there's a through line there of understanding like how we got to where we're getting.
Exactly.
So you can still make, like how are you like making this fictional ship realistic, quote unquote.
Exactly. And I think that nowadays, like, a lot more folks who are putting in their personal experience into their stories. Because I will be the first to admit, I love Dragon Age. I am full on Dragon Age trash. I'm making my way through Dragon Age Inquisition as we speak. I will admit, I'll be the first to admit and criticize the fandom.
Any fandom of significant size is a chore to deal with.
Oh,
Any
definitely.
fandom, it does not matter what it is. If it gets big enough, and smaller ones can be this way too, but big enough, it's a problem. There are shows I really like. I would not touch what people consider the quote unquote fandom with a 10-foot pole. At
Exactly.
all.
And I think that also brings into another thing that I am not a fan of. Like, I love Our Flag Means Death. I think it was a very well done show.
Sure.
You bet your ass I was very tempted to like make some of the clothes myself.
Sure.
Because everybody needs a pirate shirt. So, but what I have issue with, and this is probably just me, these are based off of historical characters. And knowing the history and the context and seeing like AUs of like Soft Boy and this, and it's just like, I feel highly uncomfortable with that, especially
Mm,
knowing, like, for context, Seed Bonnet was known as a gentleman pirate. He was also a very shitty pirate. And when
I
you,
don't know who says, so I'll take your word for it.
well, so basically, like, he was like a nobleman who lived on Barbados and wanted to try his life at piracy.
Sure.
So, fair enough, he had romantic ideas of piracy until you realized, where he was living, he owned a plantation.
Uh huh. I can see the problem.
Yep. This was during the golden age of piracy. So I want to say early 1700s, 17 teens. I will let the audience connect the
Yep.
dots from there.
Uh huh.
So that is something that I am highly, highly uncomfortable with in terms of fandom exploring that. It's like, yes, make cute fan art of the main characters, make the act like the actor who played what the fuck was his name? Uh like doing fan art of the one actor who purposely posed slutty for a photo shoot and has no regrets over it, which respect.
Sure.
I think it's more when people start writing fanfic of like real life people.
That because real life people aren't just these characters that will have just the slate the author gave them. Just
Yes.
like that's part of the reason why I don't really do much with media based on real people ever. Like I'm not gonna say like never, but generally it's just like, oh, this is based on a real person. Unless it's like a biopic or anything, even biopics I don't do engage with much either. It's just because it's just like, oh, but here's the version in this thing. Uh huh.
Yeah.
Sure. I'm gonna leave the thing as it is. That's it.
Oh yeah. So like seeing the whole fanfic about a real life person or a band makes me feel highly uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And through my interactions of folks on the streamer sphere, especially for those who do actual play, like if they're usually, I say usually, I'm going to put a major asterisk on that, very flattered that people want to engage in the fandom and engage and create like fan art or fanfic of their character.
Yep.
The
Yep.
line is
Go ahead.
drawn when people want to speculate about the person behind the character.
Yes, that's a hard limit for me. Like to my knowledge, I've never had anyone do any like fan fic about even any of the characters I've played. Fan art, yes, that's happened. Some I've commissioned myself. It's great. It's lovely. I love it. But yeah, everyone just like, oh, I want to write a fanfic about Petti. No,
No,
nope,
it's
not
like,
not not good with that.
yeah, it's like unless you have permission
Hmm.
to do so. Like I once wrote a fanfic about how I was telling my like inspired by how me telling a story to my niece. I once mentioned it in a streamer's chat that I was doing it for NaNoWriMo.
Hmm.
They're like, "Oh, put us in the fic." I'm like, "I have your permission?" They're like, "Yeah." I'm like, okay." And I made sure to put in the author's notes, this has been done with permission, and I've
Yep,
gotten the
express condition
okay.
of people. Yep.
Like if it's a short cameo and it's not relevant to the plot overall, I think that is fine.
I don't know. Like Shears was eating a burger, and then the aliens attacked. Like, all right, fine, sure.
Well, aliens attacking? Like if you're doing something for a friend where you're writing them into a story that's completely ridiculous. Okay.
Like I know, and it's okay if you like it. Well, even if you are basing a character off of someone you know in real life, I think even then you should check out the person. Like I know a very good friend of mine who's done NaNoWriMo several different times. Like there were certain stories she's like, okay, this is the character. I'm like, that's basically based on you. Is this okay? And I'm like, yep, thumbs up. And I've known her for years. She
Mm-hmm.
still checked because consent is sexy
Oh, yes.
and required.
Oh, yeah. And speaking of consent, enthusiastic consent as a trope.
Yes,
Yes.
yes, 100%.
I love it, especially like if I see the tag enthusiastic consent. Oh, okay.
Perfect.
I'm spending my afternoon reading this. Nobody bother me.
Ooh, one of my favorite tags that I've been seeing more often is aftercare, and I'm like, thank you.
Oh, oh my
Oh, it's so
God.
good. It's so like perfect. Thank you.
Yes, especially like if an author is going to write BDSM into their story.
Hmm.
I'm going to say this, and I'm going to step up on my soapbox, and I'm going to actually step a couple of steps back because I'm going to be loud. All right. Do your fucking research.
Yes.
Okay, I'm sitting back down now.
Okay.
I had to like take a step back because if I were to like say that right up to the mic, I'd peek.
You peeked
But
all over. Yep.
yeah.
Yeah.
But
No, it's.
seriously, please do your research. Do not pull what E.L. James did.
Mhm.
Do you know how many people misconstrue BDSM with an abusive relationship?
That's not what it is. It's not what it
Exactly.
is.
Exactly.
There are, to be as general as possible, um, relationships I've had, the relationships I've had that where that was something that occurred versus ones where it didn't. The ones where that did occur, far safer. There were check-ins, everything.
Yeah.
Like it's this key thing because fun fact, people, if you don't get the consent of your partner and you just start, oh, I don't know, just joking them without giving them any express warning or anything, you're assaulting that person. It's not fun anymore.
Yeah.
Even if they decide they're okay with it, you still assaulted them and they just decided to go with it. You didn't ask their permission.
Mm-hmm. That's assault and battery. That's a
Uh-huh.
crime. So like I'm
Actually, if I
currently
remember the legal distinction, like assault is even if you just make a threat, and battery is if there's physical contact. I
mm-hmm.
think.
Yes. Uh the exact definition varies from state to state if you're in the US, but
Hmm.
that's like the general gist.
Sure.
So like right now I'm currently reading a fanfic where two characters, it's like an AU, um and the two main characters actively engage in the scene, in like the BDSM scene.
Hmm.
It is properly tagged.
Yep.
There is aftercare.
Uh huh. Again, one of my favorite new tags. It's just like, yes,
Yes.
please put this in.
And like you can have like that awkwardness of like these two are new to each other. They're trying to figure each other out. There can be awkwardness. That's fine. Like the whole idea of like you can have a like scenes BDSM scenes, I can words, are can be either very vanilla or they can
Yeah.
be incredibly intense. And a lot of the
Yes.
times, as what people don't realize is that the submissive has the power.
That
The
is correct. I'm looking at you, Skate the Infinity fandom.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. There are a lot of the good fics. I'm just like, yes, correct, correct. But some of them, it's like, y'all. I have feelings.
Yes.
I'll put it that way. I
Yeah.
have feelings.
So like if you're
Oh,
doing
before I forget, because I meant to say this a while ago when we were talking about BL. This is about something great. And if you have not watched, the audience, anyone who sees in the future, if you've not watched Sasuke and Miyano, watch it. It's fantastic. Yes, precious uwu. I will defend them with everything. Watch Sasuke and Miyano. Thank you.
there you heard it here.
Not sponsored, but we could be.
I mean, sponsor us, brands.
Do it. I will shamelessly shill constantly.
Oh, definitely. I will shill. Except for Raid Shadow Legends. Absolutely not.
I don't think they need more people to shill for them.
No.
That's
So,
fine.
like, BDSM can be very intense.
Yes.
If you don't do the proper aftercare, that can leave scars. If you do the proper aftercare and you're constantly doing the communication, holy shit, that's hot.
One of my favorites with like regarding that, like it was two characters, like they discussed, like one character brought up like, hey, I kind of want to do this. The other character's like, well, okay, I'm not sure if I'd be comfortable with doing that. Can we do this compromise? And there's something like, okay, for sanitary reasons, let's make sure we have like wipes here. We don't have to acknowledge that that's what's happening, but like for the purpose of the scene, have that. So they did the whole conversation and setup. Then they did the actual scene, and then they had the conversation afterward. It was all in the thick, and I'm like, this is fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, thank you, because that's what you need to do.
Oh, yeah. And like the whole idea of like consent being super sexy. My favorite thing is like when character A is desperate to kiss character B, but stops just like centimeters away and asks permission first.
Yep, that is fantastic.
Holy crap, is that hot? Lexi, calm down. I write that in my fics where it's just like you have the character who's very desperate to kiss their love interest, but will not do it unless they say, "May I kiss you?"
Mm-hmm. It's real good.
Oh yeah, and I've had like a friend of mine once beta read fanfic, and like when they read that and like the scene ended, they're like, "Wait, why did romance stop?" I was so proud of myself. But yeah, like if you have like you can have like while I personally am not a fan of dubious consent, again, if you execute it in a way that makes sense to the plot, okay.
And most importantly, have a conversation. Like if you do that, I think it's very important to have a conversation afterwards in that fic.
Yes. Always like share your tags. Like the author's notes are a wonderful thing to have because you can say, this is why I tagged it this way. It's like, I do feel like the black and white thinking of how people are these days has been heightened. And because of the fact that people do not feel comfortable having conversations about some heavier topics or are I think they lack the proper tools to do so. Not all the time, but I feel that like for example, I'm autistic. I write about the ableism that happens on a daily basis.
Sure.
I once wrote a scene of the main character talking with their sibling who from an outside point of view seems to be treating them like crap. So I think I wrote like, yeah, this is why I wrote this way. I've also seen folks who, as I mentioned earlier, they write their experiences in. Some people write fan fiction to process trauma. Others who are just like, oh no, fuck you. You're being racist. I'm writing something to spite this.
Mm-hmm.
Like a good example is a Dragon Age fanfic of Trevelyan Inquisitor, female Trevelyan Cullen, where the Inquisitor is a black woman and having conversations with Cullen about her coily hair and like her experiences around that.
Sure.
And it was a really good fic. It was very sweet. Sex scenes were great.
Good.
Um, so like it's good to explore certain themes, but again, the execution has to work.
Yeah.
Cause
And not everyone's boundary will be in the same place. That's literally impossible.
mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's the intention behind it needs to be good and it needs to be done thoughtfully. But before I forget, because there's another trope that I don't like, and it's not serious and it's not all that serious, but there's a thing where and this is and thinking specifically about AO3, there's this thing where people feel the need like, okay, well, I don't know, I wrote a Naruto fanfics. So all of the ninjas that were Naruto's age, whether it be like, the Shippuden or earlier or whatever, like need to appear in the fic, even if they have nothing to do with it. I have to put them all in there. No, you
Oh
don't.
god.
Please no. Like and it seems to be like My Hero's another one. It's just like I have to have all of Class 1A appear in here somewhere. Or don't. Pick you it can be none of them. Honestly, besides the characters you intend to include. It could just be them. Man, like maybe they see somebody in the hole and then that's it. Yeah, I don't. So whenever I see, because and inevitably and stuff like that, if it's just like, oh, this person had like a two lines to say, they'll tag like every single character in the fic, and it's like I'm not doing no,
Mm-hmm.
because they probably don't matter for the context of your story. Please don't do
Yeah.
this.
Please don't be that one fanfic that had an entire page of tags.
I whenever I see like stuff like that is why whenever I see like a block of tags, I almost immediately check out. Especially like specifically if it's a block of like character tags, it's like nope, I can't. I can't. If someone else specifically recommends it to me, maybe, but it's like I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. I
Yeah.
won't.
And like if you're gonna do tags like that, go on Tumblr.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's acceptable on Tumblr, and a lot of the time those kinds of tags are hilarious. Try not to do it on AO3 because it clogs up the tagging system, and it's kind of why like the tagging system got an overhaul.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and getting back to like the everyone must be in this fic, I'm guilty of that. I am totally guilty of that. But once, and I know it's like a rookie mistake. It is definitely a rookie mistake where you feel like you have to have everybody in there. You don't. You really don't. Because, like, if you just want to focus on certain characters, you can mention in either passing or through a couple lines of dialogue, and that is it.
Yep. Just like because that's what I just you can just be just like I don't know. Midoriya sent the group to the sent something to the group chat, and Kaminari just put a thumbs up. That's fine. Okay, you don't have to add the Kaminari tag to the fic.
Mm-hmm.
Thumbs up. It's fine. It's fine.
Yeah. I feel that new fanfic people who are new to fanfic writers, regardless of age, because
Mm-hmm.
let us dispel the notion that fanfic writers are only 14-year-old girls with nothing better to do.
No, yeah, that is patently that's never been
Nope,
true.
nope. There are male writers on writing fanfic. There are trans folks who are writing fanfic. There are
Yep.
non-binary folk who are writing fanfic. There are people in their 70s writing fanfic.
Yep.
You can find Reddit threads, like threads on Reddit, asking experts their opinions on stuff
You
as
can
writing help.
you can find fanfics on Twitter threads.
Exactly.
I know some of the ones I've read, it's just like, oh yeah, this is transcribed from like a Twitter fic thread I did. It's like, oh, all right, solid.
Yeah, and
Obviously,
speaking
the more connective tissue was put in, but there you go.
and speaking of like Twitter threads, the most famous one I know of is the joking thread of, "Oh, so you've been getting into fanfic?" Yes. And it's like a parody of Law and Order where they're in the interrogation room and like, and how many beds were in the room? I need my lawyer.
Yeah.
It was the biggest call out thread ever. I'll DM it to you later.
Sure.
But like, it goes to show how prevalent fan fiction has become. Where when people are looking forward to the next season of their favorite show or movie that's coming out, you have speculative fan fiction, or you have fanfics writers who are like, "Oh, I hope to God I don't have to rewrite this to fit the canon." Or
Just man, don't be afraid to add the non-canon compliant tag. Just don't go back and change everything. Add non-compliant. It's fine.
yeah,
Your fic will still be good. It's fine.
like you can put in the canon divergence.
Mm-hmm. No one will judge you for it.
Oh,
You were
definitely.
here first.
And like the brave souls who say, "Fuck canon, I'm writing my own thing." You are a brave person. I respect that.
With cigarettes and blackjack.
Not to mention, like, the folks who have their entire fic written out, beta read, and then schedule the chapters.
You know what? Here's the thing. I'm fine with that. I am fine with that. You know why? Because I've many years of experience of like reading people who are like, writing it as they go, so on and so forth. And then, life happens as it does to anybody.
Yeah.
And then I'm waiting 3 months with no word in sight. The schedule people's just like, I know exactly when I'm gonna get the next thing. So like
Mm-hmm.
I can schedule my one shots accordingly. It's fine. I know when I'm gonna be fed again.
Yeah, like
I don't
people
want to
who.
leave it to the whims of
Yeah.
fate because some people who are very consistent, again, life happens.
Yes.
And it's just like, you're never gonna finish this. You're never gonna finish this, and it bothers me.
Oh my god, yes. Like, I will say this. The whole thing of like completed works only. If you hear somebody who say, "Oh, I only read completed works," they've been hurt in the past.
Yeah. Yep. Nope.
Especially
It's
like,
like
oh
I
god.
I understand. I understand why you say this, and
Mm-hmm.
it's there. There was what I got there. Like Helsing hurt me, Rurouni Kenshin hurt me,
Mm-hmm.
Dragon Ball Z hurt me. There was one I'm just like I would change it. Just like nope, completed. We're not doing this anymore. I was
Mm-hmm.
hurt. I've since it's like okay, we can do in progress again. But there was a string. It's like I can't do this anymore. I can't keep coming back to you. I can't keep doing this.
Yeah, I will admit that I've read a lot of Critical Role fan fiction, and there was one fanfic that was set like as like a Jane Austen setting.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, oh, this is really cool. Like the pairing was Essex Bayless and Caleb Littlegast. So I'm like, oh, this is really cool. Like 3 chapters in. It has been since 2018. I am hurt.
Just gotta let it go.
And then it gets better. Last year, it updated. And I'm like, wait, what? Oh no. I gotta read this. Oh no.
I wouldn't be able to let them hurt me again. It's just like no you when I see completed on here, when I see 10 out of 10, then I'll come back.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not staying here while there's a question mark. How dare you? 4 out of question mark haunts my nightmares.
Oh God,
I won't do it. I've learned.
like so many fanfic that are in my bookmarks right now. It burns my soul if they are not completed. Again, I want to put in the caveat that life happens.
100%. Like we're not saying this is the worst thing ever,
No.
clearly, but sometimes it's just you get a little burnout. So it's like, you know what? I'll come back later.
Mm-hmm.
We're not gonna check this every day.
And then you have like the ultimate heartbreak, the fics that get deleted by the author.
Mm, yep.
For whatever reason, they get deleted and you cannot find them again except for the mention on Goodreads.
Yep. I think one thing I feel like I've heard sometimes is like when occasionally when that happens, it's because somebody is transitioning to being more in the professional writing sphere, and they take down all their fanfic.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. That's not necessarily the story every time, but occasionally that can be the reason.
Yeah.
Because there's some stigma in the professional writing world about just like, oh, fanfic. Oh no, it's like, well, where do you think I got my writing practice?
Mm-hmm. And like there's one fanfic author who did a rare pair of Inquisitor and Abelas, which is like one of the elves in Dragon Age Inquisition. It was like an alternate universe. It was really good. They also wrote a series of Trevelyan and Solus. Um, and they made the whole story very interesting. Only one of the entire series of that fanfic is still up there for the Trevelyan Solus. For the Inquisitor Abelas, completely deleted. And I'm like, no.
Could this happen
To me. And the sad part is, I remember how the story goes down. And I had shared it in a Discord that I'm in, one of the Discords I'm in, and somebody was like, "Yeah, this is why like a lot of us have like saved a copy onto."
Yep.
Yeah, it's like people who
Save it
do
in a
that.
Word doc.
Yep, people who do that are fucking brave. Because I think a Good Omens fanfic that I liked with Aziraphale and Crowley alternate universe, like where they're both human and one's like runs a flower shop or like a bookshop, and the other one runs a tattoo parlor. There's mutual pining. They used to be friends. There was a misunderstanding, and then flash forward to now, and it was such a good fic. I cannot find it, and so like for those who save it onto a Word document, you are awesome. And for those who take the actual commitment of who, like those who really like a person's fic, and I'm sure you've probably seen like evidence of this, like people doing fan bindings of fan fiction.
Yep.
I want to make it very clear right now, and people, if you're watching this, clip this. If I ever find out that somebody did a fan binding, like a binding of my fan fiction, I love you. I will sign it. I will proudly autograph that, very eagerly sign that shit, and ask for a copy for my own collection.
Speaking of being able to find people and places and things in the future, I think we are right at pretty much our time,
Mm-hmm.
which it's been lovely talking with you.
Yes. And where can we find you?
So you can find me over on Twitter at NNG98 because what's brand consistency? And on Twitch over at Petti Energy, spelled PETTINERGEE, Petti Energy.
All right. And once again, big thanks for you coming on and talking about fan fiction and yelling into the void with me.
Well, thank you for having me.
No problem. So stick tight. We're going to find somebody who we can raid. And let's see who is on that I haven't raided in a while. Oh, wait. We're going over. I know who we're going over to. We're going over to Twisted.
Hey.
Pleasantly Twisted. Pronouns she, her. Wine connoisseur. Destroyer of trolls. Lover of cats, tea, and did I mention wine? Currently, she is going through her playthrough of Sword of Mana. She is a wonderful person. We are both part of her community, the Wine Cellar. It's good quality fun. She is a good quality person. I highly recommend her. So give me 1 second and we can go raid Twisted. All right. All right, everyone. Here is the raid call. Please feel free to put whatever hearts, emotes you like in front of it. And remember the raid rules. When we go over, you are to listen to the mods and streamer. Be on your best behavior because it is a reflection of the love, music, and appreciation I bring over to Twisted's community. I will be back tomorrow with some more sewing and on Sunday with whatever the hell I feel like. I haven't figured it out yet. Once again, big thanks to Petti for coming on, and the VOD should be up in about 2 weeks or less, depending on how much energy I have. So if you're interested in seeing more of this podcast, please let me know. I really do enjoy doing this. And as I like to say, in regards to the podcast, regardless of the format, regardless of the medium, it's always important to read between the lines. And hey, you're doing good. Don't worry about it. Now go make some noise for Twisted. Bye bye!
Toodaloo.